is there room for a program like AA with other approaches, or do we need to just rethink AA completely?
That's a really good question. And I think about this a lot. Well, I work at this online program I mentioned called the Life Process Program, and I do counseling with people there. And we very much take a harm reduction approach like we talk about in the book. Harm reduction meaning we're here for you if you want to do something. Obviously, tacitly implied by somebody signing up for a program, there's something they want to change. But we don't label someone and we don't tell them how they ought to change. We ask them a lot of questions about what it is they might like to change, try to hold a mirror to them and say, and then, so what is needed in order for you to make the change? How can we be helpful in you making the change? And a lot of those people are in AA. So something that we think is kind of funny because our program, sort of like that chapter in the book you mentioned, you can see how we totally oppose it philosophically, because we want to make sure people feel that they have agency, responsibility, and self-worth enough to make their own decisions on a first principles basis, not because there was something prescribed to them, not because there was some ritual prescribed to them. And at the same time, it's all encompassing. So we say, you do what you want to do. We shouldn't tell you that you need to do one thing or another. So in that respect, our program is open to people who are doing something like AA in a way that I don't think that AA can replicate on the other end. I don't think that somebody who wants to take a total harm reduction approach is as welcome in the AA groups as AA would be in ours. And so that's the distinction. It's not that philosophically we're opposed. If you have to ask us, do you totally agree with this model? Well, no, we don't. There's a lot about the model we disagree with. But when it comes to should a person into the program, should a person not? That's a tough one because my answer is I don't. Everyone has their own reasons for doing what they do. So I'm not omniscient. I wouldn't tell someone to do it or to not do it, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. That being said, the thing that we're pushing back against most is not the existence of AA, especially as a social benefit, because a lot of people go there and don't agree with any of the principles like I did, and they get some social benefit out of it like I did. We are opposed mostly to AA and the medical field being in cahoots, as it were, enough that it reigns supreme over so many dimensions of medical care, life, even like human resources, and the courts and the justice system. So where I just talked to a man the other day named Bill Kinkle is his name, and he's a nurse. He was a nurse for a number of years, and he self-identified as someone who had an addiction and had to leave his nursing practice so that he could get treatment for his addiction. And the only type of treatment that he was allowed to get before he could reinstate his nursing license is 12-step oriented treatment and disease-oriented treatment. So what we're really pushing against is the idea that 12 steps ought to be at all ever mandatory, as opposed to people being able to think and make their own decisions for life being mandatory. Philosophically speaking, the thing that we disagree with most is, I guess, two things. One, the sense that people must surrender their bet what AA calls their best thinking. They say like your best thinking got you here. So the idea that people need to surrender what they think their best thinking is to something more omniscient, to a powerless state. And the other thing we disagree with most is the idea of sobriety being the goal. So, you just mentioned how you have a relationship with alcohol and that needed to just become like a more mature relationship. Whereas AA would have had you, if you were entering AA, it's not like you'll be, everywhere's different, but it's not like you'll be physically removed from the place if you say that you're still drinking and want to learn more about it. But I can nearly guarantee that you won't feel very welcomed in the groups if that's your perspective. And so that's our philosophical difference, is that if people want to totally cut ties with, a drug, alcohol, or any other kind of relationship that they form that's a dysfunctional one, then that's what they want to do. And so we, as a clinician or a counselor, the best thing you can do is ask people questions about why they came to that decision, ask them if it's a forever decision, ask what they might do if something arises in the future where they might want to drink or something like that. AA just doesn't have that. It doesn't. AA itself hasn't matured to meet, human common sense and 21st century demands.
It's like a lack of flexibility, kind of. Is what I'm hearing.
It has nearly no flexibility. It has wisdom, a lot of wisdom packed behind it. I just interviewed a man named Massimo Pigliucci, who is he just wrote a book about Stoics, and there's a serenity prayer that you do in AA. Grant me the serenity to change. Well, whatever. I can't remember. Accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. And that's very much, a 1,000-year-old, thousands of years old Stoic sort of a mantra. And they have these like Buddhist leanings, spiritual leanings, but they don't change. It is a text, and it's a prescription for a way to live life. So anyway, in a soft way, we oppose it philosophically, but we oppose a lot of, there are a lot of things we want to oppose philosophically, but we don't care if someone wants to do it. It's not our job to judge. The chapter was more about how 12 steps have become infused in everyday life, and people are demanded to encounter 12 steps, even if their own personal philosophies oppose it.